Menopufong, and this is the crtv. Thousands of women gathered at the 20th May Boulevard in Yaoundé today to celebrate the 29th edition of the International Women's Day.
The colorful march past was presided over by Cameroon's First Lady, Mrs. Chantal Biya. With maturity and orderliness, the women thrilled the guests and the First Lady, who never stopped clapping.
We have highlights of today's march past at the 20th May Boulevard with crtv's Enanga Kebi.
The main event at the May 20th Boulevard was the march past. It all kicked off with the arrival of Mrs. Chantal Biya. On hand to welcome her were members of the constituted corps headed by Minister Marie-Thérèse Abena Ondua, the governor of the Central Region, the senior divisional officer, and the government delegate to the Yaoundé City Council. Pleased to join the women for the feast, the First Lady received a standing ovation. Next was the chanting of the national anthem and then the march past. Celebrating under the theme, Challenges and Achievements in the Implementation of the Millennium Development Goals for Women and Girls, First Lady Mrs. Chantal Biya clapped, smiled, and waved to the women from start to finish. Her heart indeed was with the Chantal Biya Foundation, a humanitarian structure created and headed by Mrs. Chantal Biya. Under her instructions, the foundation organized week-long activities, notably round-table discussions, sporting events, executed by the Secretary General Mrs. Abi Subidun, to commemorate the feast.
The women were orderly, calm, and respectful. I pray that with time the love amongst women will really increase and will come to understand that we are all one.
The crtv women also staged a strong show using the occasion to showcase their talents as the indomitable lions of the audiovisual sector.
Taking part in football is just like saying that what a man can do, a woman can do, and even better.
It was indeed difficult to tell who was who at the May 20th Boulevard owing to the uniformity in dressing. Women came out as one, and like one force can make things work for the good of the nation. At the end of it all, one can say it was a successful celebration here at the nation's capital. And for Mrs. Chantal Biya, a similar ovation was reserved for her like upon arrival, as she waved to the crowd and took off to the Unity Palace.
Wednesday at the 20th May Boulevard in Yaoundé was filled with lots of side attractions captured by our reporter Christian Cheata.
In the following report, he says the event was a forum to showcase beauty and fashion, but also to demonstrate the strength of the womanhood. Christian?
The women are here again. The red carpet must be set straight. The First Lady will be there herself. Time to polish up and be at one's best before the bridegroom comes. You never know where your luck lies. Under the green, red, and yellow, here come the beauty queens. Beautiful brooches, magnificent cabas, majestic footsteps. The Queen Mother is on her throne as the ancient Egyptian princess looks on. No intrusion is allowed when the princess with the longest braids marches past. Princesses of the equatorial forest are also marching on. But marching is no easy matter. Only she who wears the shoe knows where it pinches most. The march past continues still. A little rest, a little sip makes Jill a rich woman. The heat is intense. Even iron ladies need a nap. Talk less of soft ladies. And why not chair ladies? It's indeed a celebration. Tourists can immortalize the moment. The big boy is also enjoying himself. Everyone is relaxed. The human donkey will have many stories to tell. It has been a long day. It has been a beautiful celebration.
Day indeed, Christian Cheata. The 29th International Women's Day has taken place amidst calls for greater productivity among women of all walks of life.
Several women at the 20th May Boulevard in Yaoundé told crtv reporters that they want to take their destiny into their hands, and by getting educated, investing financially, and exerting pressure on government and employers to give them more positions of responsibility. by stubbornly proving their competence in all sectors.
The women also pointed at the need for the introduction of or review of laws that will facilitate the social and economic growth of women in Cameroon. Clarissa Achu reports.
Beyond the relations and singing, the blatant display of carefully tailored uniforms at the Yaoundé ceremonial ground lie a deep desire by the Cameroonian woman to be taken more seriously by her community, first through education.
If you are a woman and you are still young, whether you are inside your marital home and you have a capacity to go back to school, it's better for you.
Women should never give up. I had my in-service examination when I was 49 to go up as a controller of P&T. Women should be creative, they should be dynamic. In everything they are doing, they should be positive.
Women should be at least educated and be aware of consulting and being screened in order to prevent themselves from this deadly disease.
The women admit they have to be aware of their weaknesses and subsequently adopt an attitude that encourages other people to support them.
For the women of little height, there are difficulties in marginalization in schools, difficulties in scholarization, health, maltreatment, even on marriages. The women have to educate herself. So she has to go to school. So she has to be healthy, have a good health, have a good morality, so as to prove that she can sit in an office to fight for women.
By himself and them, fish she down and then eat like any woman them. Anyway, then the only talk say will be aggressive and then we encourage people who don't talk for any woman say me then change.
They have also challenged their peers to dare to invest and gain financial independence and stability instead of perpetually waiting on men.
Women can start making up their savings and they do investment. You can also build a house for your retirement. You can also save money for your own project, not just sitting there and rely on the men. There are certain laws that really bring the Cameroonian woman backwards. When a man dies, it's not automatic that the woman becomes the head of the family unless your husband leaves a will. Can you imagine? But when the woman dies, it is automatic that the man comes in. If we don't change the laws, we can never make a change.
Whether for vulnerable groups, strong professionals, or ordinary people, Cameroonian women want to attain a position of strength in which they can give to their families and communities without holding back.
And the women of the public service spent the hours after the march past in merrymaking in their various administrative headquarters.
The heavy downpour in some parts of Yaoundé spoiled some open-air parties, but for those held indoors, the mood was festive.
Moichua for Akonjang has this roundup of Women's Day festivities in the various administrative departments in Yaoundé.
It may have been raining cats, dogs and hailstones outside, but this did not dampen the spirits of the women of the Supreme State Audit.
Our job consists essentially of protecting public fortune, public funds, and as women, we take an active part in this job in our office. So it's an occasion for us to take stock and then make plans for the future.
Same atmosphere at the Ministry of Agriculture, where the women have several reasons to celebrate, one being the attainment of Millennium Development Goal 1 on curbing hunger.
As far as the first objective is concerned, we have already attained the objectives 2 years before time. And you have heard that the head of state has been given a certificate for reaching this objective.
At the Ministry of Posts and Telecommunications, top-level and junior-level staff communed with one another in a festive and relaxed mood. Women of the Ministry of Defense and their male counterparts put down their arms and were completely at ease with live music complementing the festive air. At the Customs Directorate, it was not only about merrymaking. The Cameroon Customs Women Association spared a thought for the less privileged.
It's a kind of tradition with the customs that we like to celebrate with the vulnerable. So this year, the Director General kept some gifts, some books, some assistance, financial assistance to help them.
In all, the beautifully decked women of the civil service spent the hours after the march past feasting responsibly.
The Association of Dynamic Women of the Montfebe Hotel today organized a grandiose reception at the hotel to conclude festivities marking Women's Day in Cameroon.
The come together was an occasion to salute and encourage women who have been outstanding in promoting the image of the hotel. Elvis Teke reports.
After the march past at the 20th May Boulevard, the dynamic women of the Mount Phoebe Hotel chanted their rallying song as they assembled at the sumptuous conference hall of the hotel. A prayer session and the chanting of the national anthem set the tone for the celebrations in honor of the woman.
This day has been put aside so that women can sit back and, I have something in retrospection to think about where we are coming from, how far we've gone, and where we intend to go.
The president of the Association of Dynamic Women of Montfebe Hotel outlined the origin of the day that has led to the socio-economic and political empowerment of the women. She also painted the influential position women of Montfebe have been privileged to hold in the hotel over time.
In Montfebe, we have women who are directors. We have women who are maîtres d'hôtel. So in Montfebe, the woman is at ease.
The Director of Financial Affairs, speaking on behalf of the General Manager, encouraged the female staff of the corporation that they will be rewarded based on their output. He said women should be outstanding in their work in order to merit the confidence of hierarchy. The hierarchy, she added, pays special attention to the woman.
If you have the proper training and if you work hard, I'm sure, and as experience has proved us right, these women get an opportunity to be appointed just like the men do.
One of the senior staff of the hotel saluted the role of the woman in giving a female eye and a special touch to the hotel, which makes it maintain its leadership position.
Women have a special touch which allows them to be more sensitive to the wishes of the clients. So we think that putting women in places of responsibility even helps us to be able to satisfy the wishes of our clients.
The feast was also occasion not only to celebrate the woman, but for some staff to showcase their talents in music.
On to this advertorial before we come back with more news on Women's Day celebrations in Cameroon. A new brand of seasoning has entered the Cameroonian market. It is the West African Seasoning Company Limited, which has as principal product the Ajinomoto seasoning.
A cross-section of the Cameroonian public and administrative authorities had a chance to sample the product yesterday during the official launch of activities of the West Africa Seasoning Company Limited in Cameroon.
The launch was chaired by the Secretary General at the Ministry of Trade in the presence of the representative of the Nigerian High Commissioner to Cameroon. Moitu Waifo Akonjang has the rest of that story.
Ajinomoto may sound like an automobile brand name, but it is not. Ajinomoto is the newest brand of seasoning to break into the Cameroonian market. The brand, created in Tokyo in 1909, has made its mark in Asia, the world over, and the Nigerian market, where it is known as the West African Seasoning Company Limited. The brand has 4 cardinal values.
First thing, creation of shared value. Secondly, pioneer spirit. The third is contribution to society. And the last is a recognition for the collaborators in the company.
Africa represents 8% of its activities, and entering the Cameroonian market is a platform for the West Africa Seasoning Company Limited to break into the Central African sub-region.
When he is in Cameroon, he can take the market of Chad and Central Africa and Gabon.
The vision of the Ajinomoto brand, also known as the essence of taste, is to encourage its customers to eat well and live well.
In Nigeria, we have started consuming Ajinomoto for over 30 years. And scientists have shown that Ajinomoto is very, very important in human health.
Ushering in of the West African Seasoning Company Limited spells well for Cameroonian youths, 14 of whom have been employed, with prospects for the recruitment of more.
Back to Women's Day celebrations, the women in Douala defied the harsh temperatures of the city to turn out in their numbers and showcase their femininity at the Udayak Square.
They joined their voices to those of their peers nationwide to say now is the time to focus and inspire change. We have this report with Nook Protos from Douala.
It was a typically punctual Governor Joseph Betty Asomo who presided over the celebration at the UDIAC Square in Douala, amidst a sea of women, a women-led municipal band, and a completely female guard of honor mounted by the police. Before the march passed, the Littoral Regional Delegate for Women Empowerment and the Family, Madame Makota La Fortune, reminded the women folk that while they celebrated, the fight against poverty, hunger, and violence against women and girls was far from over. While Governor Joseph Betty Asomo noted that even though there were still a lot of challenges as concerns the emancipation of the Cameroonian woman and girl, a lot had already been accomplished. For example, 94 out of every 100 pupils in primary schools are girls. The era is long past, he said, for that a type of woman who sat and expected everything from the man. The ensuing 2-hour march past was spectacular in its diversity and enthusiasm, especially from the police, the Nigerian community in Douala, women refugees living in Cameroon, women with disabilities, the majorettes of the University of Douala, a waste disposal company, and CRTV. They all looked sprightly and confident in their Women's Day fabric and other association uniforms, but that uniformity also shrouded real inequalities and challenges facing the women and girls in Cameroon barely months to the accomplishment date of the Millennium Development Goals.
It was marked by march past, but also lots and lots of feasting.
The women beautifully clad march past under the watchful eyes of South Governor Jules Marcelin Jaga. Colette Jani reports from Ibolova.
Practicing mechanical agriculture and actively participating in development are some of the resolutions taken by the women of the South as they reflect on the challenges and progress made while contributing to Cameroon's achievement of the Millennium Development Goals.
We have always been kept behind, but with the theme of this year, I want to think that the woman has to sit up because there's equal access, education, training, vocations, especially the technical vocations that women flee away from. I think it's quite an important theme.
Clad in yellow and purple fabrics and uniforms of assorted designs, the women from diverse walks of life marched past the Convo's ceremonial grandstand. In line with this year's theme, South Governor Jules Marcelin Jaga told the women to use their different associations to sensitize more women on their vital role they play in Cameroon's emergence by 2035.
During this celebration, we noticed that women participated more in the various activities we have organized. So we invite them to go on in this way, participating in all activities and taking care of themselves in all the fields of the life.
At the end of the official program, some women retired home while others went to drinking spots and restaurants to culminate 8 March celebrations in Ibolova.
In Bafoussam, the event at the Tamja ceremonial ground was presided over by Governor Miji Yawa Bakari, who told the women that the fight to gender equality should begin from the family. Gu Henry tells us more from Bafoussam.
Women of all walks of life in the Mifi, clad in their Women's Day fabric, gathered at the Bafoussam ceremonial ground to celebrate womanhood and demonstrate their contribution to nation building. The president of the organizing committee, Mrs. Wembe Jean, saluted the massive turnout of women, but frowned at vices they face like early or forceful marriages and widowhood rights. The government delegate to the Bafoussam City Council, Emmanuel Zete, has hailed the contribution of the Bafoussam woman to giving the city a facelift. West Governor Miji Yawa Bakari has paid tribute to the women in the Mifi as development actors and urged them to be cognizant of this year's theme. The major highlights of the day were the award of prizes and diplomas to some deserving women and a colorful march past by some 350 women's group from the public, parapublic, private enterprises, associations, and movements. The women of CRTV West also made their presence felt.
Women in the Southwest region celebrated the day with a call from their governor inviting them to take advantage of the opportunities and facilities made available by the government and continue to better their lot. Anne Munjon tells us more from Boya.
The colorful ceremony started with animation, talk of war, award of the Woman of the Year 2014, and educative talks to women on various health aspects. In a keynote address, Southwest Governor Mr. Bernardo Kaliabilai appreciated the efforts of the women for all they are doing to assist in the development of the country. Governor Kaliabilai elaborated on what the government has done to implement some of the Millennium Development Goals and told the women to take bold steps forward in order to promote their rights in whatever they do. He assured all the women of government's determination to continue to recognize those women who work hard to assert themselves, saying today many of those women are occupying top administrative positions thanks to the head of state for their recognition.
The women came out in their numbers and they were so orderly, and the occasion has gone on very, very well. I want to congratulate the women for coming out and celebrating this day. I wish that after this, when they go out, they should continue in the same peaceful manner that we have seen here this afternoon.
Earlier in her welcome speech, the 4th Deputy Mayor of Boya, Mrs. Comfort Ojankwot, appreciated what government is doing to recognize the women, but also called on them to continue to assert themselves. She thanked the Boya women for coming out in their numbers to celebrate the day. The celebration was graced with a march past led by the wife of the Southwest Governor, Mrs. Nicole Okalia, followed by over 100 women groups.
Capital, the Director General of the CRTV says that gender-based policies would be strictly taken into account during the conception of the annual program of the corporation.
Mr. Maduva Mulke made the promise to the female staff of the corporation as they gathered at the Mbalatu Production Center to share a meal after the march past at the May 20 Boulevard.
On the occasion, the women were reminded of their role as stabilizers in the development of the CRTV. Belinda Shaw reports.
A handful of women of CRTV Central Services listening attentively to their boss, who on the occasion of the International Women's Day has a mouthful of words of encouragement towards his female staff. Mr. Amadou Vamuke is on the platform, stressing on the importance for female workers of the house to work hard at achieving excellence.
With the convergence of our efforts, we hope to draw up a very vigorous and attractive policy towards women. I'm thinking especially on 2 or 3 things. Number one is having ladies in jobs where they are rare or non-visible at all, like drivers. But above all, we would like the women in CRTV to be conscious of the fact that they have a role to play in stabilizing the organization, in assuring its perennity.
A message which is surely sitting down well with the hundreds of women from the central services who are quite aware of the stakes of the current digital switchover process. The women are wining and dining to commemorate the day, but not without taking to the podium to light up the occasion or even to dance to their very best. The day is not yet fast spent, as the women plan on hanging on till they get filled with excitement. But even as they swing along in merrymaking, they will surely only have to make the day meaningful by keeping in mind all they've learned during the 29th edition of the International Women's Day.
A senior official, that is another development now, a senior official in the Ministry of Transport says government is sensitive to the plight of striking workers of the rail maintenance company Citrofair and will take measures to address their problems in the quickest possible delay.
The Minister Delegate Mefire Umaru was speaking Friday after a 3-hour crisis meeting to iron out the recurrent problems in Citrofair. Christeche Atom has the details.
Earlier this week in Yaoundé, when striking workers of the rail maintenance company Citrofair blocked railway lines demanding 12 months of unpaid salaries. This meeting in the Ministry of Transport last Friday held on the instruction of the Prime Minister to look into the Citrofair situation and propose final solutions to the problem which has been dragging on far too long. For 3 hours, the debate was intense. The defiant Director General of CITRAFAIR complained that with a capital which has dropped from 2.8 billion to 600 million and with no work forthcoming, the company cannot raise money needed to pay workers and to settle their social benefit arrears for 11 years. Efforts by officials to get a global idea on the economic situation of CITRAFAIR and on its partners today were futile. Questioned on why CITRAFAIR has not been able to apply recommendations of previous crisis meetings, the Director General remained elusive. At the end of the meeting, the presiding official, Minister Delegate in the Ministry of Transport, Mifire Umaru, said the situation of the striking workers of CITRAFAIR remains a major preoccupation to government and that government will do everything to address the situation. He also noted that the resolutions of the recent CITRAFAIR board meeting have not been implemented. He further encouraged CITRAFAIR to improve relations with CAMRAI.
Bishops of the 7 dioceses of the Yaoundé Ecclesiastic Province have resolved to open a television station in Yaoundé.
This is one of the decisions arrived at during the just-ended Bishops' Conference, which took place from the 3rd to the 6th of March in Zangmalima in the Jan Lobo Division of the South Region.
For 3 days, the bishops brainstormed on the theme, the role of the media in evangelization. Beatrice Ngom tells us more.
The Yaoundé Episcopal Conference, which lasted for 3 days in Zangmalima, focused on the theme, the role of the media in evangelization. According to the clergymen, the Jan Lobo Division was chosen to host the conference because of its religious history. The first missionaries, the Marienburg, first implanted Christianity here before proceeding to other parts of Cameroon. And so, the senior divisional officer of the Jan Lobo, Bernard Marimba, has expressed his joy to receive bishops from the 7 dioceses that make up the Yaoundé Conference. In an opening speech by Bishop Christophe Zoua, the importance of the media for better evangelization to the population was underscored. A speech complemented by 2 renowned professors, Thomas Esono and Jean Sala, who took turns to enlighten the spiritual guides on the theme, the power of the media and the truth in the media, respectively. At the end, they resolved that they will create a TV station in the nearest future and that the frequency of the religious radio, which is already broadcasting in Yaoundé, will be extended to other regions soon. Before leaving the division, they visited the construction site of the St. Joseph Cathedral in Zangmalima. The cathedral, the Bishop of Zangmalima, Christophe Zoua, stressed, still needs some 140 million CFA francs for its roofing if it must be inaugurated in March 2015.
The Turkish ambassador to Cameroon, Omer Farouk Dogan, has praised the Cameroon Radio Television for its leadership role in projecting Cameroon's image abroad.
The head of the Turkish diplomatic mission was speaking yesterday during a working session with the Director General of the crtv, Amadou Vamoke, and some senior staff of the corporation. Arsene Godfred tells us more.
Turkey and Cameroon have been creating new diplomatic grounds to raise the level of their bilateral cooperation. The Turkish diplomat, who before this visit discussed the opening of Cameroon's embassy in Ankara with the President of the Republic, decided to carry out a working visit to CLTV production center in Balatu. His Excellency Omar Farouk Dogan said Cameroon was the gateway for the development and stability of the sub-region, lauding efforts made by the management of CLTV in educating and sensitizing the population on the need to preserve such great achievements.
CRTV is one of the main forces of Cameroonian people. I had the permission to invite Director General of CRTV to Turkey for the beginning of technical cooperation between CRTV and TRT. By the way, the General Director of TRT has given me a huge sum of DVDs which containing cultural, historical documentaries.
Earlier, the Director General of CLTV, Amadou Vamoke, congratulated the ambassador for being instrumental in the fostering of Turkish-Cameroon relations. The ambassador handed over a series of TV programs offered by the Director General of the Turkish Radio Television, who invited Mr. Amadou Vamoke for a cooperation and exchange service visit to Ankara. The ambassador visited some technical installations of CRTV to mark the end of his visit to the house.
We now take you to our world news roundup, where the big news is a Malaysian Airlines jet carrying 249 people that got missing since yesterday evening.
Planes and ships from Southeast Asian states have joined forces to search for the aircraft that was flying from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing.
We have details of this and more in our world news roundup with a correspondent of the French overseas television channel, AITV.
Vietnam and Malaysia began search operations on Saturday after the disappearance of a Malaysia Airlines Boeing 777 plane. It was flying between Kuala Lumpur and Beijing with 239 people on board. Fuel remains were found in the China Sea. In a hotel in Beijing, family and friends criticized the lack of information about the missing plane. Thousands of Hamas members and supporters gathered in Gaza on Friday to protest against the decision by a court in Cairo to outlaw the Islamic radical group in Egypt. The Palestinian group, an ally of deposed Islamic President Morsi, was accused of participating in attacks in Egypt when the army deposed Morsi. Hamas denies the charges. A court in Istanbul has ordered the release of the former chief of staff of the Turkish army, General İlker Bakbu. He had been sentenced to life in prison in 2013 for plotting against the conservative Islamic government. The military officers found guilty at the time had always said that the proof against them had been fabricated. He could face another trial. At the same time, Prime Minister Erdogan is stuck in a corruption scandal. Standing in the official section with a smile, Russian President Vladimir Putin opened the Paralympic Games in Sochi on Friday. Putin said he hoped the Games would help lower the tension caused by the crisis between Ukraine and Russia. During the parade of athletes as part of the opening ceremony, the Ukrainian team showed its disapproval of the situation in Crimea.
Today, we'll be back with another edition tomorrow at 7:30. Thanks for being there and good night. Good night, Mirain.
Good night, Ben. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow, God willing.